My name is Shabbir Lakha, and I'm joined today by Marija Carter, who's in Beirut at the moment. She's a Palestine solidarity activist. And over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a massive escalation by Israel in its invasion and bombardment of Lebanon. Some 2,000 people at least have been killed so far, and over 1 million people have been displaced. So we're really pleased to be joined by Marija to tell us more on there. So yeah, if I can start, Maria, by asking you to just kind of describe what you're witnessing and what's happening.
So the main issue here at this point is displacement. At start, even just 5 days ago, it had been the bombs. Obviously, 2 weeks before, it had been the pages. It seems like they're just stepping it up so every night is worse than the previous. Every single day, they do something that if you told me the day before they'll do, I would have never believed it. Is that kind of pace. Um, it is a rapid deterioration, especially in a country that simply does not have the infrastructure, even on the best of days. So, for example, just to give you sort of one example, the government itself provides electricity for about 2 hours a week. The rest of it is run by individually set up generators. So, in a context like this, when you now have a huge influx of people from the south into the suburbia in Beirut, and then again getting relocated from the suburbia of Beirut into central Beirut, and some of them running further, um, the country itself is not coping. And you can see that sort of as you go, like on the streets, you have thousands and thousands of displaced people. And it creates also the social scissors in Lebanon are extreme. You really have the haves, the have-nots, and the have-yards. And so you have, for example, in Hamra, where we're located, you have these five-star hotels and those sort of like nice touristy restaurants that are completely empty. There's literally nobody there. Like the places that I used to visit, even in May, and they would be, bursting with life, are now completely empty. You can easily be one customer with 15 employees around you. And conversely, though, you go outside and there is just displaced people, literally like with babies, no shoes, literally people just run out. And there is not enough capacity, like there is not enough hours in a day. There is not enough people to be able to provide. I know that World Food Program is now sending more people, and Red Cross is sort of upping the capacity. And obviously, people already started donating, sending food aid, all this. But there were definitely the first 3 days, there were nights when you didn't have enough, even just bottles of water to distribute to everyone displaced. Um, but on what you're also witnessing is the absolutely incredible resilience of the people here. There was a woman on Martyr Square that was there literally with just holding a baby. The father was barefoot. They literally just ran out. The baby, literally, was like 2 months old maximum. I'm better guessing. I mean, I asked her like, "What is your situation? Like, what is sort of like, what is the way to sort of help you out of this?" She was so just like, "Alhamdulillah, how are you?" And you almost sort of like flabbergasted by this. You're like, what do you mean, how am I? Right? Like, I'm gonna go back to Hamra after this. But that is the kind of people that you're dealing with here, right? You can't really break them. They are always going to find, like, even on you go around Martyr Square and Hamra, there are people who are displaced and they have a shisha in the middle and they're telling each other stories and they're laughing, right? So yeah, it's the highs and the lows. But that the fact that they are able to cope with the hardship does not mean that there is no hardship. It's incredibly difficult.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was going to ask you a little bit about Israel campaign because I mean, obviously they've invaded and occupied southern Lebanon now, but they've also been carrying out airstrikes even in central Beirut over the last couple of days, which,
Yeah.
um, if I'm not wrong, they didn't even do during the 2006 war. So obviously Lebanon's Beirut in particular is a very built up city. So what's been the kind of impact of that? How yeah.
So yes, there have been two bombings so far in central Beirut, and one of them was quite up north actually. So it's not even like so like what we would call just about barely central, the Kola intersection area, but this is really quite up north. It is indeed true that this is not how far they ventured even during the 2006 war. And when you mentioned Beirut is really like a sort of packed up urban, I would really just like to put it into perspective because London, for example, is 1,500 kilometers square. Moscow, where sort of I grew up, 2,500 kilometers square. Beirut is 21 kilometers square, not 21,000, 21. So it is incredibly mountainy, very sort of high rise, very packed up. And it's, a lot of the places are overcrowded. Families tend to really live together, like multiple generational families tend to live together. And that number, when it comes to inhabitants, that also increased substantially from 7th of October, or rather 8th of October, when Hezbollah started exchanging fire with the area on the border. Because a lot of people who had, let's say, one family, one person studying in Beirut, working in Beirut, now the whole family from the south relocated into that one apartment. I've seen this multiple times. So the density of population is absolutely incredible. The one bomb, when people say on the news, like, oh, the whole city had it, I think it's sometimes maybe difficult for people to London to conceptualize. You would drop a bomb in London and everyone would hear it, but it is 2 million people packed in this tiny little space. And yes, you can hear literally every single bomb. So the psychological effect of that, obviously, and that is the point after all. Israel, as you mentioned, is trying to invade sort of on the ground in the south. They are getting, can I swear on this? Yeah, they're getting fucked. Like that is from yesterday, from what I've heard, they sent 90 people and they got back 40 dead bodies and 50 people who either got wounded and had to be carried out or left themselves. So for all these billions that they get, they have air superiority, but on the ground, their capability are very little. So I guess to overcompensate for the fact that they are losing sort of the whole ground invasion part of their plan, they just decided to carpet bomb Beirut because nobody can really stop them from that.
It's absolutely insane, and I think particularly seeing the pictures of, I mean, people who fled from the south who are kind of just in their cars, just on the streets, and then these massive residential buildings being bombed by bunker buster bombs and stuff is crazy, and yet through the West has continued to support Israel's continuing to supply weapons that Israel is using. They were quick to condemn the Iranian drone attack the other day. But that kind of hypocrisy is laid bare for everyone to see. So what's your view on the West continuing support, and what's the view of kind of people in Lebanon that you're speaking to about what the West is doing here?
I think when it comes to people here, a lot of them just at this point gave up on the West being any sort of force in this. I think people are saying obviously now the hypocrisy sort of really laid bare down to its sort of complete essentials of condemning Iran for a strike that was targeting military capacities um, of a nation that is in front of the ICJ for on a ground for genocide that does have by Karim Khan obviously a request for warrants for ICC warrants for Netanyahu, and you strike their military capabilities after they killed again like a leader in a sovereign nation. And that is condemned. And on the other hand, carpet bombing Beirut, carpet bombing the south. I mean, people even like nobody even expects them to condemn bombing the south. But I think what it boils down to for me is I'm getting basically full inbox of EU and British evacuation information that is sort of all kind of very please leave the area, it's dangerous. And then when you sort of respond to them, it's like, oh, why is it dangerous? Who is bombing? They kind of go like, no, well, it's always have been a dangerous area. It's like, yeah, okay, so what is the danger now? Could you just, and I'm just sort of after that specific, bit, what do you think is gonna happen if you stay in Beirut? What happens when you go to Dahia? Yeah? What do you think is gonna be the risk there? And of course, they're never going to tell you that you're gonna get hit by an Israeli bomb that was supplied by Britain. Right? But the fact that on one hand they are concerned about getting the residents out of Israel's way effectively, and I think the point there is same with Sudan, right? The moment the last British person was evacuated, the news just closed on the issue. So after the 15th of April, until you run evacuation flights for about 7 days, once the last British person was out of the country, news cap basically. So, but I think people here are more sort of in tune with the whole resistance movement now because there is a situation where people at some point realize, okay, so we are getting effectively punished for standing with Gaza, and the options we are given is either give up on Gaza and live in the shadow of this colony that had done this to our brothers and sisters, and because they are going to continue forever until there is literally no Gaza left and no Palestinian left in that area, and we're going to have to live in the shadow of this entity, or we're going to risk that we're going to die, but we are going to stand by resistance. And I think that is the predominant mood here. When it comes to the West, I don't think anyone has any illusions And to be honest, I thought I don't, and I always think that I don't have illusions until I'm proven wrong again and again and again. But I think this did a lot of people in. The quick condemnation of Iran paired with absolute radio silence on what's going on in Lebanon, except for the concern for the own residents.
No, absolutely. Well, given the West's kind of centrality in enabling Israel to do what it's doing, we've seen, this massive movement over the last 12 years, in solidarity with the people of Palestine and now in solidarity with the people of Lebanon as well, and calling on our government to stop arming Israel. And there's a national demonstration in London tomorrow where hopefully hundreds of thousands of people will be on the streets. Do you have a message for people here, for the movement, kind of what we should be doing to be, trying to solve this situation?
On the night of the 27th to the 28th, when they first boomed out here, yeah, we went with a few friends just with basically a truck of a car full of waters and of sort of like just those sugar little those sort of sugar liquids. And as we sort of standing there is a whole bunch of, at that point, most of Jahi is empty now. Yeah, we were driving past it yesterday with a friend of mine who is in the movement, and you have two checkpoints, basically one operated by Lebanese military, one operated by Hezeb, and there is nobody there. The whole time we're driving through, not a single person, not a single car. Yeah. So they carpet bombing empty line now. But that night, there were hundreds of people lining up the streets in absolute terror. Yeah. And then once the bombs sort of slowed down for a bit, it was about an hour they didn't bomb. We are waiting for a new car basically to arrive with the shipments. And at that time, sort of just in panic, kind of scrolling through my phone, getting in touch with friends, updating people in London, that we are fine, but this is happening. And I saw the videos from people protesting in front of 10 Downing Street. Sort of all these Lebanese flags popping up. It just sort of was the first thing that came on my timeline, like my friend Beth, Red Right Fist, Modi and Assad, so like these people kind of, it was just showing up these videos on the street and I couldn't stop scrolling through it. And it was a bit surreal because you felt like it's some alternative reality, like trapped in your phone, just like we had the alternative reality trapped in yours, yeah. But I think a lot of us in this movement had a moment when we felt like, is this even doing something? Is the protesting even actually doing something? Or are we just doing it to sort of alleviate some of our kind of guilt because of it's our tax dollars that are funding this? But I can tell you 100% in that moment, it meant the world. It really did. Like just standing there, literally, we had the bombs going. We had, like, sort of, you could see sort of through the buildings. I said, it's very uprise and stuff. Sometimes you hear a bomb close, but you don't see where it hit. But just seeing that we are not alone in here, that people on the other side of the world are sort of actively standing from Downing Street right now as this is going on, and are protesting, and just to realize it's really not done in our names, because I was sort of showing it to my friends who were delivering the aid with, and then a few people sort of formed a little circle, and I was just passing the phone to random people, and people were like, oh, where is this? And I was like, oh, it's London. I remember I finally, it's like sort of, there was one woman, yeah, who kind of looked at me and she was like, oh, but Britain is sending those weapons. I was like, yeah, but it's not Britain, it's the government. Look, and just being able to show that and say like, it's not us. It's not us who is doing this to you. Like, if it was up to us, this would not be happening. I think we need to just keep showing up to these places. It really does matter. I believe in that more now than I did before, genuinely. Just to sort of really delegitimize, then show that this is few people in a few rooms. This is not the will of the people in the West. Yeah, so I would say basically show up. Definitely, just do show up. It matters more than you think. It does matter, and it matters now more than ever. It's been a year. If we knew this on the start, would we even be able to keep going the way that we are? I think we would have escalated much more than if we knew it's going to be this long. So let's escalate now, because if we don't, we are still going to be here a year from now. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maria. That's really informative, and yeah, very much agree with what you've said. And yeah, all solidarity with you and the people of Lebanon, and stay safe. And we'll do everything we can to stop our government from enabling this.
Thank you so much.